Good morning. Thank you, Rawili, Mr. Paloi, for conducting the session. Today we are briefing on the cabinet statement of the cabinet meeting that took place yesterday, the, the 6th of May, 2026. On the issues from the environment, we'll start with matters related to health. South Africa continues to demonstrate world-class medical and scientific expertise through the handling of the cases of hantavirus. Cabinet congratulated the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, the NICD, on their level of expertise in diagnosing the cases of hantavirus within 24 hours of the patient's admissions at a Gauteng hospital. Cabinet was briefed about the circumstances that led to the hantavirus patients being admitted in a South African hospital from the MV Hondias cruise ship. Cabinet further congratulated the Department of Health for the speed and effectiveness in which they conducted contact tracing for people who came into contact with the hantavirus patients before the diagnosis was made. Cabinet wishes to allay any fear of another outbreak due to the prevalence of rats in some municipalities, because scientists have assured us that the hantavirus is not found in any rats in South Africa or the African continent. On the 1.5 billion financing package for BioVac, which is a boost to South Africa's vaccine production capacity, Cabinet welcomed the 1.5 billion financing package between BioVac and the European Investment Bank Group to establish Africa's first end-to-end multi-vaccine production plant. The plant, scheduled for completion by 2028, will produce oral corolla vaccines and later expanding to include vaccines for polio, pneumonia, and meningitis. Once fully operational, the site will have a production capacity of up to 40 million doses annually, significantly bolstering Africa's healthcare resilience and supply chain security. The project is also expected to create more than 340 skilled jobs and around 7,000 indirect jobs, while promoting technology transfer, innovation, and long-term health resilience across the continent. On the foot and mouth disease, Cabinet welcomed progress with the vaccination program, with a total of 2.59 million cattle vaccinated for the foot and mouth disease to date. Cabinet noted the arrival of 2 million doses of the FMD vaccine from Take as part of the first tranche of a 6 million dose order. The Department of Agriculture is distributing the vaccines to provinces using a targeted, science-based allocation model informed by animal risk and population data. A further 5 million doses have been ordered from Argentina through Ondersport Biological Products. On the economy, government continues to intervene to minimize the high cost of the price of fuel. Cabinet continues to intervene to minimize the high cost of the price of fuel as a result of the continuing US-Israeli war in Iran that has also impacted the Gulf region. Cabinet supported the 17.2 billion fuel levy subsidy as announced by the Minister of Finance that will be expended over a 3-month period from April to June 2026. And the Interministerial Task Team continues to evaluate other interventions to minimize the impact of the global fuel and fertilizer shortage on South Africans. Cabinet has also directed the Minister of Mineral and Petroleum Resources, supported by the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, to coordinate a SADC response to assure security of fuel and fertilizer and supply in the region. On international relations, the landmark achievement under phase 2 of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project, the Senqu Bridge. The launch of the Senqu Bridge in Mokhotlong in the Kingdom of Lesotho represents a landmark achievement under phase 2 of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project. The new bridge will ensure uninterrupted access to Mokhotlong, Sani Pass, and surrounding areas. The project has contributed significantly to the upliftment of the economy of Lesotho, with South Africa constructing hundreds of kilometers of roads to improve access to remote dam sites and providing royalty payments of approximately 3.8 billion rands annually to Lesotho's fiscus under the Lesotho Highland Water Project. The Lesotho Highland Water Project ensures Gauteng has access to bulk water through the Vaal water system, whilst Lesotho generates hydropower and support the provision of potable water, irrigation, fisheries, and the promotion of tourism. This working visit to Spain has confirmed Spain as South Africa's valued partner. Cabinet welcomed the successful official visit to Spain by President Cyril Ramaphosa, which has led to over 2.1 billion euros commitments to South Africa's just energy transition in the fields of green hydrogen, electric vehicles, renewable energy, and grid infrastructure. In 2025, total trade between South Africa and Spain reached approximately 2.8 billion euros, with exports to Spain rising to 1.3 billion euros. Additionally, over 150 Spanish companies currently operate in South African soil, supporting more than 20,000 jobs across sectors that range from renewable energy and infrastructure to financial services, technology, and tourism. On safety and security, the immigration challenges facing South Africa. Cabinet condemned the viral circulation of fake videos and images claiming to be attacks of foreign nationals in South Africa. The fake videos and images are not only fake, but they are intended to undermine the good reputation of South Africa internationally and undermine South Africa's pursuit of a better Africa agenda. South Africans are within their right to protest against the spiraling illegal immigration challenge, but violence linked to those protests in the past is not acceptable, and law enforcement must deal with the instigators of such violence decisively. Cabinet condemned the opportunistic attempts to hijack the genuine concerns of South Africans about high unemployment and limited economic opportunities by mobilizing South Africans to destabilize the country, including mobilizing attacks on foreign nationals and the tribal mobilization trend. Cabinet reiterated that there is ongoing work to address the problem of illegal immigration, which work includes the strengthening of border management through the work of the BMA, speeding up deportations, dealing with criminality within the immigrant communities, and protecting jobs and opportunities for South Africans. On opportunities for South Africans, Cabinet has directed the Department of Employment and Labor to intensify inspections of workplaces to ensure compliance with employment laws across vulnerable sectors such as hospitality, farms, trucking, construction, amongst others. Cabinet further directed municipalities to ensure the enforcement of municipal bylaws with priority given to trading bylaws. South Africans must also play their part by refraining from subleasing their business licenses to undocumented foreign nationals. On a policy level, the revised white paper on immigration addresses constraints with current immigration laws by introducing provisions of first country of safety principle, moving refugee reception centers nearest to the border, and a clause to enable relevant departments to designate certain trades, professions, and businesses only for South Africans and refugees. On cabinet decisions, the revised white paper on local government 2026 as part of our commitment to fix local government. Cabinet approved the gazetting of the revised draft white paper on local government for public consultation. The revised white paper is part of the local government reforms of fixing local government to build a modern, fit-for-purpose local continental free trade area. The AfCFTA creates one of the world's largest single market with over 1.3 billion people and a combined GDP exceeding 3.4 trillion US dollars. The comprehensive AfCFTA agreement presents strategic opportunities to unlock economic potential, expand export markets, deepen industrial value chains, promote investment, and drive sustainable growth. Since South Africa's launch of trade under the Africa Free Continental Free Trade Area, preferential terms from January 2024 to February 2026, The trade increased to 2.6 billion, spanning a diverse range of products such as mining equipment, appliances, food items, apparel, plastic, and electrical machinery. On the Hammarsdale Clean Water Supply, Cabinet received progress report on the Hammarsdale Clean Water project that is driven by the Mahalis Water under the Department of Water and Sanitation and the City of Tshwane. Upon completion, the project will provide potable water to approximately 47,550 households, saving an estimated 180,679 residents. Cabinet noted that all four modules on the part of the project, which is delivered under Mahalis Water, has been constructed and tested, enabling the system to produce up to 50 million liters of treated water per day. The Minister of Water and Sanitation will later in the week inspect the project and outstanding works by the City of Tshwane to ensure full access to water for the communities of Hammanskraal. The department also updated Cabinet on progress with unblocking blocked water project and status of municipal debts to water boards, which pose a severe risk to water security and the financial viability of these boards. The detailed briefing of this will be done after the Watercom meeting. Electricity supply remains firmly secured and load reduction about to be a thing of the past. Cabinet welcomed the winter electricity outlook presented by ESCOM, which indicated that load shedding is unlikely between April and August, marking a significant turning point in our nation's energy journey. Cabinet further welcomed progress in addressing load reduction with 352,968 customers no longer affected by load reduction during peak periods. Load reduction has been eliminated in the provinces of the Northern Cape and Western Cape, with the next 5 provinces due for load reduction elimination later in 2026, and only Gauteng and KZN will have their load reduction challenges eliminated by 2025. It's also important to explain the challenges of Gauteng and KZN is due to the slow acceptance of the prepaid meter system and the continued illegal connections of electricity, in particular in informal settlement. And as soon as those matters are sorted, the Gauteng and KZN will progress quicker. But we've got ESCOM and the Department of Electricity and Energy commitment that load reduction in the rest of the country is going to be eliminated by 2026, and you can take our word for it. On bills, the Children's Act Amendment Bill 2026, Cabinet approved the submission of the 2026 Children's Act Amendment Bill to Parliament. The Children's Act Amendment Bill seeks to streamline the fragmented early childhood development programs and regulations that were overseen under Chapter 5 of the Act by different authorities to a consolidated ECD regulation under the revised Chapter 6 of the Amendment Bill under the sole responsibility of the Department of Basic Education. The Amendment Bill introduces a single registration process for ECD centers and one set of norms and standards for the ECD program. The draft nuclear amendment bill, the draft Nuclear Energy Amendment Bill 2025, Cabinet approved the publication of the draft Nuclear Energy Amendment Bill of 2025 for public consultation. The draft bill amends the Nuclear Energy Act of 1999, which provides the legislative framework for South Africa's participation in international trade in nuclear material and technology. The bill addresses the regulatory gaps resulting from developments in the global and domestic nuclear landscape by updating terminology, aligning the Act with international standards, and strengthening oversight of nuclear material, goods, and related activities across the value chain. The National Building Regulations and Building Standards Amendment Bill 2026, Cabinet approved the National Building Regulations and Building Standards Amendment Bill 2026 for public participation. The purpose of the draft bill is to promote uniformity in law within the jurisdiction of municipalities and to ensure safe construction practices through sound building signs, good workmanship, and quality materials. The bill responds to complaints regarding challenges related to the inconsistent application and interpretation of the Act. On appointments, excuse me. All appointments are subject to verification of qualifications and relevant security clearances. Cabinet approved the appointment of Mr. Otsile Maseng as the Chief Executive Officer of the National Credit Regulator, Ms. Linda Seroka as the CEO of the Export Credit Insurance Corporation of South Africa, Mr. Marcus Lepe as the CEO of the Limpopo Olifants Cashman Management Agency. Cabinet approved the appointment of directors on the board of the Lepel and Northern Water, Dr. Ndoleni Frederick Mpepo as the chairperson, which is a reappointment, Mr. Mutalane Divet Munakedi as the deputy chairperson, Ms. Aisha Hamad Lahe, Ms. Christine Murungwe Rampile, Mr. Makoni Mek Mokhwele, Mr. Kani Zwane, Mr. Fina Mudau, Advocate Rufuno Tokyo Nevondwe, Prof. Tebogo Mashifane, Prof. Mabel Mpatlele Mankweng, and Mr. Ashley Lachi. Appointment of directors on the board of the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency. Mr. Ramateo Johannes Munyokolo as chairperson, Ms. Precious Nompumelelo Sibi as deputy chairperson, Ms. Barbara Schreiner, Mr. Simpiwe Kondro, Mr. Gregory Nigel Joseph White, Mr. Nicholas Rabi, and Ms. Mankone Mabatau Ntaba. Appointment of the governing body of the Brede Olifants Cashman Management Agency, Mr. Bongani Mnisi, chairperson, Ms. Marlies Laber, deputy chairperson, Ms. Eureka Schlotz, Mr. Trevor Abrahams, Professor Jacobus Andres Duplessis, Ms. Natasha Davis Volmarant, Mr. Jan Pinar, Mr. Kobus Nicholas Tienkam, Ms. Khobisile Mbali Mngadi, and Ms. Twarelo Gratitude Mukwe. Appointment of the board of the State Information Technology Agency, Professor Stella Vuma, chairperson, Advocate Colin Whippont, Ms. Zimbini Hill, Ms. Pumelele Dlungwane, Mr. Rendani Ramabudana, Ms. Nalin Maharaj, Professor Protas Pili, Mr. Vili Vukela, who's a DPSA representative, and Mr. William Matebula, National Treasury representative. On the International Communication Union Council, Cabinet approved for South Africa to stand for re-election to the International Telecommunications Union on Region D, which is Africa, for the 2027-2030 term. Elections will take place at the ITU Plenipotentiary Conference, which will take place in November 2026. South Africa's presence in the ITU Council, alongside other African nations, ensures a strong voice for the continent in international ICT governance. On events and conferences, Africa's Travel Indaba. Africa's Travel Indaba will take place from the 11th to the 14th of May 2026 at the Nkosi Albert Lutuli Convention Center in Durban, ICC in KwaZulu-Natal. The Indaba will be hosted at a time where there's been a surge in international tourist arrivals. In March of this year, 962 visitors chose South Africa, a 12.5% increase when compared to the same period in 2025. This follows a record-breaking tourist season in 2025 with 10.5 million arrivals. From January to March 2026, South Africa has already recorded 2.9 million inbound travelers. In a related development, South Africa has cemented its status as Africa's leading aviation hub following a safety audit by the International Civil Aviation Organization, a United Nations specialized agency on aviation. On milestones of Freedom Campaign, this year marks a series of defining milestones in South Africa's democratic journey to be commemorated through the Milestones of Freedom Campaign, which will be launched at the Union Buildings in May 2026 under the theme Honoring the Past, Delivering the Future. These milestones include the 30th anniversary of the adoption of the Constitution. We have a roundtable discussion on the 8th of May in Pretoria as part of marking the 30 years of the Constitution of South Africa. The 50th anniversary of the 1956 youth uprisings, the 70th anniversary of the anti-pass campaign by the women, which is commonly known as the Women's March, and the 60th anniversary of the forced removals from District 6 of the African people. Together, these seminal moments reflect the long road traveled in the pursuit of democracy and freedom, while reminding us that despite meaningful progress, the journey continues for this generation to fight for meaningful empowerment and transformation of the country. South Africa's second International Special Economic Zones Infrastructure and Investment Conference, Cabinet approved the hosting of the second International Special Economic Zones Infrastructure and Investment Conference from the 16th to the 17th July 2026 in KwaZulu-Natal. The conference will bring together high-level local and international investors and serve as a platform where ideas and innovative solutions are proposed to facilitate and build vibrant special economic zones, as well as ensuring investment in South Africa. South Africa has designated 12 SEZs, with 9 currently operational, and the operational SEZs are hosting a total of 224 operational investors with an estimated cumulative value of 31.7 billion and 28,821 jobs created. Child Protection Month. Child Protection Month is commemorated annually to raise awareness of children's rights and the need to protect them from harm. During this period, key government departments, as well as child protection services and various civil society organizations, will intensify efforts to mobilize all sectors of society to safeguard the children, address persistent social ills, and strengthen areas that require focused development and intervention. Cabinet calls on all members of society to work collectively to protect the rights of children, prioritize their well-being, and support their holistic development, but to ensure that our children all go to school, as government has provided free basic education. Africa Month. South Africa will join the rest of the continent in observing Africa Month and Africa Day on the 25th of May 2026. The month is an opportunity to advance unity, deepen regional integration, and reaffirm a shared African destiny. This period invites reflection and celebration of our rich identity, heritage, and cultural expression, but also to remember that Africans, we are one, and Africans in Africa includes all people of all races who are Africans and South Africans. It also calls on all Africans to work together in driving the development and progress of the continent so that no one area is more developed than the other, and that we must intervene to make sure that as Africa, we stand together for common progress and for the rising of the African continent. As we commemorate Africa Month, we recognize our achievements while taking stock of progress made towards realizing the vision of the African Union of Agenda 2016 for a united and prosperous Africa. In South Africa, we talk of a better Africa. Football Fridays, Cabinet called on the nation to rally behind Bafana Bafana on their road to the 2026 FIFA World Cup by wearing the green and gold on Fridays to boost the national spirit and pride. And I hope we'll say no DNA, just RSA. Announcements. The National Presidential MSME and Cooperative Awards. The Department of Small Business and Development has revised the National Presidential Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise and Cooperatives Awards to include a provincial leg and sector-specific categories to enhance recognition and impact. The provincial leg of the revised awards kick off in July, and the revised categories are the MSME of the Year in the agricultural sector, Financial Service Sector MSME of the Year, MSME of the Year in Digital Economy, Technology and Innovation, Manufacturing Sector, Green Economy MSME of the Year, Youth-led MSME of the Year, Women-led MSME of the Year, MSMEs owned by persons with disabilities of the year, corporate and cooperative of the year. We are hoping the small and medium enterprises will participate in these awards in their provinces kicking off in July. 2026 local government elections, with the president having announced the 4th of November 2026 for local government elections. Cabinet calls on all eligible voters to register to vote or update their details using the official IEC online portal, which is available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Citizens can also visit their local IEC offices to register to vote, and those who have applied for IDs are reminded to collect them from the Department of Home Affairs or the Home Affairs channel partners like banks. Alternatively, citizens may register during the National Voter Registration Weekend of the 20th and 21st June 2026 at the same voting stations where they intend to cast their ballots on election day. On messages, we start with condolences. Cabinet expressed its condolences to the friends and families of Cynthia Shange, a revered cultural icon who made an immense contribution to South African film and television, earning prestigious honors, including Lifetime Achievement Awards, in recognition of her enduring impact on the local entertainment industry. Albert Mazibuko, who co-founded the iconic group Ladysmith Black Mambazo, which has won 5 Grammy Awards and featured on Paul Simon's acclaimed 1986 Graceland album. Acclaimed South African opera legend Mimi Kutse, who was one of South Africa's greatest cultural ambassadors and among the country's most celebrated operatic voice. She inspired generations of musicians, performers, and young artists, and her legacy will continue to shape South African music and culture for generations. Retired Judge President Ahmad Naim Japi, who passed away at the age of 70. He served as the Deputy Judge President and later Judge President of KwaZulu-Natal Division of the High Court, as well as his services as an acting justice of the Constitutional Court and at the Labour Appeal Court. To Councillor Tumeka Bikwana, the MMC for Corporate Services in the Chris Hani District Municipality, who we have learned of her murder yesterday on the 6th of May 2026. May their souls rest in peace. On congratulations, South Africa to us for having some of the world's best beaches. South Africa continues to remain a popular global tourist hotspot, with the 2026 Global Beach Report by international travel specialist Travelback recognizing two of the country's beaches in this prestigious global list. The Boulders Beach in Cape Town has been officially recognized as the #1 beach globally, closely followed in second place by the Cape of Good Hope Beach. The rankings underscore the enduring international appeal of our natural heritage and the strength of our tourist sector. Cabinet extended its congratulations and well wishes to Dr. Naledi Pandor on her appointment as Chancellor of Nelson Mandela University, a distinguished activist, academic, and public servant. Dr. Pandor has demonstrated a lifelong commitment to education that has helped shape South Africa's democratic and social landscape. To the Blitzbokkers for winning their first ever Hong Kong Sevens title after defeating Argentina 35-7 in the final at Kai Tak Stadium. No DNA, just RSA. South Africa's men's relay teams for winning silver medals in the 4x100 and 4x400 finals at the World Athletics Relays in Gaborone on their journey to Beijing. No DNA? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister in the Presidency, for the statement that you deliver. The statement is shared online and also on the government platforms. So colleagues might go to the South African government platforms, to GCIS, they will find it. We are joined on the sign language desk by my colleagues Amira and Ashley. Thank you. Joining the minister in front is the acting DG of GCIS, Ms. Nomonde Mnokwa. Colleagues, let me invite questions. First, we'll start in the house and then we'll go online. I'm going to note the line of hands and then you will be recognized in that order. Let me see the hands and we know the drill. We'll start, let me start at the front. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in that order. But I know that one of the questions you're thinking might be asked by anyone before you. Then you'll show me by a word of hand, that sign of hand, that you are no longer on that one. Thank you very much. In that order. Press the button. Yes.
Hi, yes, Vaseline from Article News. I just, for the moment, I feel recently. Specific questions. I just wanted to ask, Mr. You mentioned that it is the anniversary since the residents of District 6 were evicted. President had mentioned in his State of Nation is that phase 4 will start in terms of rehousing those residents. I just want to ask, is there an update on the fourth phase of the rehousing and repatriation of District 6 residents? And my second question is, since Operation Prosper started here in the Western Cape with military going to the Cape Flats, when can the public expect an update on progress of Operation Prosper so far? Is there a report underway that the public can have access to? And when can the public expect the progress of Operation Prosper? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Aisha Ismail from ENCA. Two former presidents named Ntshavheni and Jacob Zuma are opposed to an application to extend the competitive inquiry. Has this been discussed by Cabinet?
Thank you very much.
Mulelani Philip from SABC. Minister, in your capacity as the Security Minister, in relation to the ongoing protests against the political immigrants, is your department monitoring the situation so that it does not go out of control? Perhaps maybe if you can share whatever information you can. And secondly, there was an admission yesterday from the presidency that President Cyril Ramaphosa, on his visit to Zimbabwe over the weekend, he does raise concern that one of the businesses that was there is a person who's backed by law enforcement agencies in South Africa. Again, in your capacity as State Security Minister, your observations and your reactions to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Because we have quite many hands, may we allow you to take, we can take some of them. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, it's Nico Philiban from the SABC. I was partly kept up by my colleague, but I think I should follow up. Minister, as frustration over illegal immigration boils over across parts of the country, many South Africans are of the view that communities are now taking the matters into their own hands because government has failed to act decisively. Does Cabinet view this incident simply as vigilantism, or does it acknowledge that this is becoming a national revolt driven by anger over porous border, unemployment, and pressure on public services? And also, Minister, if you can expand on tribalistic elements you touched on your statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Minister, and everyone. Sunay Prem from Muslim Foyer. Just to add on to the questions around the anti-migrant protest, this morning there was a letter circulating from the Ghanaian government which asks that South Africa's xenophobic attacks be placed on the AU agenda. Is there any comment around that? And just Is there, I know it's been questioned a lot, but like, is there a specific message that the government wants to relay to other countries, in particularly African countries, about our view on migration, etc.?
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Minister. Paul Bekiota from Bloomberg. Just casting net bit wider. Has Cabinet discussed or had any kind of briefing on the situation in Mali at the moment? And what is South Africa's position on that? And then secondly, the French Africa Summit is occurring this weekend in Kenya. In South Africa sending a delegation, I know the president said that he has other engagements. So can you give us some idea of who's going from South Africa and how big the delegation is? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And also
Togozo, just press the button. Thank you.
from Newsroom Africa, just adding to the colleagues' questions about immigration, we've heard Nigeria as well in Parliament having similar sentiments, taking it as far as talking around trade and rallying other African countries. Start from this, okay. So just picking up on my colleagues' questions around migration issues, adding to Ghana, Nigeria, we've also seen in Parliament with the same sort of rhetoric, giving messages to the government to do something, and then calling on other African countries that could affect trade. Was it discussed how that could then impact the fast tracking of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area if we do see large countries such as Nigeria in Parliament talking about those issues? And then also the special economic zones, we've seen quite some delays in getting them off the ground, especially Val and the one in Limpopo. I remember there's went out for one and there was not much going on in Limpopo. Do we have any time frames on when we will actually see these projects or these special economic zones get off the ground and create those opportunities?
Thank you, Minister. I think we have just the last hand. I suspect it will be in line with the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. My name is Joseph Mosia from Jonas Politics. My first question is with regard to the post-evaluation strategy. I know that the last defense review was conducted in 2015. Is this evaluation strategy based on that on that defense review, and are the conditions of 2015 still pertaining today in terms of what the view of the country is in terms of what kind of defense force we want, or is this strategy now replacing the defense review? And secondly, on the issue of immigration, you spoke about fake videos, which I suppose do play, especially on social media, a very important role in fueling some of the sentiment. But at the same time, what is government planning specifically on the actual people who are actually fueling? When are we seeing actual people being brought to book for their role in actually going around and assaulting people from other countries?
Thank you very much. Minister, we may invite you.
It's the challenge when you've got brothers and you want to call them, they're never reliable as friends. Because there are questions that I do not have answers to, which I was calling the brothers for. The forced removals of District 6, they were not evictions, they were forced removals of District 6. The update on rehousing will get the Minister of Human Settlements to update on the rehousing and the resettlement. We'll get that through, more especially when GCIS is working on these freedom milestones. We'll have to then put up that information on what's happening and the full plans, what has happened in the past, the progress since then, and also what are the new next milestones that we're looking at. So we'll get that update. On the Operation Prosper Progress Report, we will do from the JCPS cluster, which is Justice, Crime Prevention and Security cluster, an update briefing on the progress with that project operation across all the 4 provinces that are right. Talking to the chairperson, one of the chairpersons of the cluster, there was an indication that in 2 or 3 weeks' time they should be ready to provide the report, the progress report. And we must indicate it remains work in progress. NetJoins continues to reevaluate how we execute so that we can be more effective. The simple answer to the Campepe query extension, it was not discussed at Cabinet. On the Mali situation, we got a briefing on the Mali situation, not only on the situation in Mali, but across a number of developments within the African continent. And our position is that we need stability in the Sahel region and in the Western West Africa, and that we appreciate the intervention by the Togo-led initiative to get this alliance of Sahel states and ECOWAS to engage on finding an amicable solution to that situation. More so that the impasse is also contributing to the proliferation of jihadists and terrorists. And we need states that are working. We need the restoration of democratic rule, but we also need to get a way forward that is meaningful, that will protect not only the countries of the alliance of Sahel states, but also the region and the continent in general. Though Minister Lamola will provide further details, South Africa is recapacitating its missions in the countries of the Sahel Alliance so that we can also provide support to our citizens who are there, but also South African businesses that are operating in those countries, and also to work closely with the governments of the Alliance of the Sahel states to make sure that we contribute to the resolution of the situation there. On the French Africa Summit delegation, I'm sure DECO will send a representation. It's one of the brothers I was looking for. When you call a friend, and calling a friend well. On the letter of Ghana saying they are referring the matter to the AU for the media review and the discussion, our position is that we have nothing to hide as South African government. We will provide, if the AU decides to put the matter on the agenda, we'll provide the report, including the facts that are related to the matter, that there are no xenophobic attacks in South Africa. There have been attacks on foreign nationals, which is unfortunate, and that law enforcement has to do their work, and we have been insisted on them doing their work, including yesterday's discussion in Cabinet. It was very clear, it was communicated to the law enforcement departments, and state security is not part of law enforcement department. So the law enforcement departments, that they must make sure that the perpetrators and instigators are brought to book, and those who attack people are brought to book, because you can't have people willy-nilly deciding to attack others with no basis of the attack, but based on a sentiment. And this is related to the tribal mobilization that is happening, that there's a grouping that wants to mobilize people around a particular tribe. So if you cannot speak that language, then you are deemed a foreign national and you're undocumented. You'll recall in one of the videos, there's a vendor guy who they want a passport for, and he tells them, but I am vendor, and so I will not have a passport, I have an ID. And they continued to attack him, to harass him. And he was just saved by the community. So that's why we're saying this thing is meant to undermine and destabilize the country, and we must call it for what it is. The mobilization against foreign nationals it's a ruse that people are using to then want to mobilize society against the genuine concerns of South Africans. There are problems in South Africa of high unemployment. There are problems of employers choosing to employ foreign nationals because they can abuse them for cheap labor without following the labor laws of the country, and then forgo a South African. And there's the narrative that says South Africans will not take up those jobs. Why do you say South Africans will not take up those jobs when they are looking for employment? But there's also the part that South Africans are playing themselves of when government made an intervention last year to say all informal businesses, including spaza shops, we must have business licenses, trading licenses. There was even waivers of registration fees. And what we needed was the papers that you are in the country. And we must also be clear, refugees, not the ones who go home during Christmas holidays, true refugees that are fleeing for one reason or the others and have been registered in accordance to South African law and international law as refugees, they are allowed to do business in South Africa and to find employment in South Africa. Why? Because South Africa does not host refugees in refugee camps. We allow them to integrate into communities. Unlike in other countries in the continent where refugees are hosted in refugee camps, they are integrated. And at the point when we took the decision, was saying government will not be able to afford providing for refugees in refugee camps, and it will be better to get them to integrate into communities. So then when you go out and attack a foreign national on the guise that he's a foreign national without knowing his refugee status, it's a problem. And it's not true that government is not doing their part. We have been consistent. You will remember that this is the very government that has established the Border Management Authority to strengthen the work at the border, at the ports of entry in South Africa. It is this very government that has done investigations, arrested people, and fired people for corruption in the border. It is this very government that has, since the establishment of the BMA, has deported over 500,000 illegal immigrants in the country. It is this border that has said to South Africans, come and register for spaza shops, come and register for informal trading. But it's South Africans who are choosing to sublease. When the laws are very clear, the bylaws of municipalities are very clear that when you have that license, you cannot sublease it. It's for you to do business. It is this very government that have intervention programs to support through the Department of Small Business Development to support informal and small business traders, or what you call micro business owners, to do their businesses, including the various spaza shops, hair salons, motor mechanic, panel beating, and so forth. And I know I was the Minister of Small Business Development when we first introduced the packages to support those micro businesses. So it is, you cannot say there are no intervention. We have gone further, by the way. We have gone further and said we need to revise the immigration laws. We had the draft white paper on immigration and refugee protection, and we revised it again because there were gaps that were not included in the draft white paper. We've revised it and we've approved it, and Home Affairs is working for it to be a bill. In that, we've made provision of first country of safety. You'll recall in the previous post-cabinet briefing, I indicated that in terms of first country of safety principle says, if there's a war in Zimbabwe, in Mozambique, in Eswatini, in Lesotho, in Botswana, in Namibia, the first country of safety can be South Africa or any other, because we're the first country that they go to. And I indicated at that briefing that there is no war even within the SADC region where people could justify flocking to South Africa. The wars that we know of now, it's in Sudan. And South Africa and Sudan, there are many countries of safety before Sudanese could arrive here. We have said we need to we are putting that provision in our laws so that we can be able to remove people who want to seek refugee status in South Africa who are not entitled to be in South Africa because they are other first country of safety. South Africa cannot be a center where everybody flocks to. But critical to that, as government, we have also said the problems of immigration southwards, outside of the criminality and other things that are happening in that movement, the human trafficking, drug trafficking, gun trafficking, and terrorism. that is flowing through, we have said it's a development issue. We need to work in. That's why in our chairship of SADC and in our interventions, we are saying we are supporting the industrialization and development of the region of SADC and support fully the agenda of the Agenda 2063 of the African Union for silencing the guns to allow development and Africa to prosper. That's why South Africa has been the biggest champion of the African continental free trade area, so that we could then grow together. We have even engaged with our counterparts in the continent and said, when we talk about the rules of origin, we want you not to allow imports that will come and diminish the value of African products. We must foster manufacturing within our continent. It's South Africa who's championing the critical mineral strategy in the African continent, so that we can beneficiate at source, so that Africa, who is the largest reservoir of critical minerals, and critical minerals which are being used to develop economies such as China, the US, and other economies, the green economies, and the technology in economies, the electronic vehicles, and the cell phones, and the digital economy. Those critical minerals are found in the largest abundance only in the African continent. But Africa is not developing, and we've said we must agree and we must be one with within the continent as a continent to say we will no longer export those out. But not only that, but we are going to beneficiate. If you want to have access, you must invest in the African continent and beneficiate in that country where you are extracting the minerals. We are no longer to be the exporters of dust and rocks. That is our position, because you cannot deal with the migration challenge outside of the economic and development opportunities. Because either you deal with it from a political strife and war situation, or you deal with it in economic terms, economic opportunity. So we cannot, everybody collectively, the African governments must work individually and collectively to develop their own countries, so that their citizens do not feel the need to migrate to another country to seek better opportunities. It is this country that has put those measures in place. But we have also equally put measures to protect South Africans. The president, during the State of the Nation address, announced the 10,000 labor inspectors, so that we can go inspect these industries that hire foreign nationals without paying them salaries, who then in the restaurant industry and hospitality, they have to rely on tips. It's a reality we need to confront. And it's the very government who have made that intervention to say we're going to, because that's violation of our labor laws in South Africa. There cannot be cheap labor in South Africa. It's against our constitution that we are celebrating this year for being 30 years. That South Africa is not a source of cheap labor, whether by South Africans or by any other person, whether South African businesses or South African people. And will protect that provision so that South Africans can find jobs. And that is the commitment we have made in terms of the work that we've done. It's not the state security alone that is monitoring the protests. It's also the law enforcement that are monitoring the protests, so that we can hold everybody to account, but not only hold everybody to account, to also understand what are the underlying things that are informing the protest. Because there cannot be a protest against opportunities to protect opportunities for South Africans that then mobilize on a particular language. If you don't speak that language, you cannot speak. You are not represented. You cannot be. South Africa, there is only one nation, which is a South African nation, because that's what our forebears strive for. And that nation is both black and white. It's non-racial. It's non-sexist. It's non-tribal. And that nation must be united. We are united in confronting our challenges, and we are united in finding the solutions, but we see ourselves as one people. And that's why our constitution also recognizes the 12 official languages, with the prospects of recognizing more languages. Because there's no one language that is, all languages in South Africa are equal. And there was the question that spoke about the I think I've dealt with the immigration related questions in one. There was a question that spoke about the visit of the president for the one-on-one with the president of Zimbabwe and a guest who's wanted by law enforcement. The president visited. The guests were the guests of the president Mnangagwa. The president did not have a list of who's going to be there. The president went to see President Mnangagwa. Other people came on board. In terms of the people who are wanted by law enforcement in South Africa has capacity to get people in terms of the mutual assistance who are wanted by law in South Africa, and they will continue to engage with the government of Zimbabwe to make sure that they release the fugitives that are wanted in South Africa to face the law in South Africa. And then there was a question on the defense review. So we've got a 2026 defense review. That's what we're calling the force evaluation strategy. Yes. So it's no longer the 2015 one, it's the new one. And that's why they've got a path which they've called it Journey to Greatness. It's a 30-year path that has short-term, mid-term, and various phases. Unfortunately, we can't detail that because it then compromises our capability, but they are well on course for its full implementation with the support of Cabinet and the National Security Council. Thank you very much. Oh, there was the last question around the economic, special economic zone. I think we've had to learn a lot of lessons. As I indicated in the statement, we've got 12 designated and 9 that are operational. Part of the problems, and I'll use one that was designated, 2 that were designated a while ago. There's one in Limpopo, in the Musina Makado, and another one in Northwest in the Rustenburg areas. The problems has been in Musina Makado, the problems have been the planning when you designate without having finalized the full plan, unlike what you are seeing in the Fita Homutubatsi where there's a full plan. Musina Makado battled with water sources. Of course, the opposition, the environmentalist opposition was also not helpful for the longest time. That derailed the progress there. But the water was a main issue that there could not be development in the area. You'll recall it had to take the Department of Water and Sanitation getting agreement with the Beitbridge municipality in Zimbabwe to bring water through, in a bulk water through, so that we can supply water in the Musina area, but in the Musina municipality, but also with the Musina Makado SCZ. But we have learned the lessons now. That's why even the implementation is in phases, but also before they even designate, they had to go through a process of, are these things in place? Is the infrastructure required in place? The bulk infrastructure, the bulk, the main roads that go there, are they in place, and so forth? And also the environmental objections, are they sorted before you even do the designation, so that you can move faster? And also source potential investors, because in the Rustenburg one, the major issue was that the location was close to an industrial park that was already operational, and the SCZ came in. And without also sourcing investors for the SCZ, it was a problem. And there to be a discussion to say, do we review the existence of the industrial park and integrate it into that SCZ? And then also expand the benefits to the industrial park, and also attract further investment to allow those who are in the industrial park to also expand into the SCZ. So those are the lessons we've learned, so we're doing better. So the Fita Homotubas is one of the first ones after those full evaluation and lessons done. And that's why we're hosting a conference on the SCZ, is to say what are the best experiences. You'll realize in other countries, an SCZ is not designated to an area, it's a whole town, so that end to end, the benefits accrue so that you can have development. That's how China did with Shenzhen and others. And maybe we're getting to that model in the later stages. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. I was going to go for the questions online. And I see there is a hand burning, and I can't ignore them. Maybe follow-up questions. So it will be, let me note that hand, note, recognizing that order.
No, thanks for it. It's a new question. My name is Thabo Mokoni, Minister. I represent the Times. In the context of what you said in the statement around the financial recovery plans for municipalities, is there any intervention plan in the making regarding the situation in Johannesburg, based on what the letter from the finance minister said that came up?
Thank you very much, Thabo. Out.
Just a follow-up, Minister. Thank you. On the issue of migration, notwithstanding issues of xenophobia and all that, when we look at the
Xenophobia is a strong word. I would like it to go in full.
no, xenophobia exists. There are people who hate foreigners.
I want you to withdraw that. You have no proof. There are attacks to foreign nationals. Let's go to.
Attacks to foreign nationals means xenophobia.
It doesn't. We'll define it.
Okay, Minister. On the issue of migration in South Africa, has Cabinet ever looked at the possibility of having what I would call a Zimbabwe strategy, in terms of there is a reality of about more than 1 million official number of Zimbabweans in South Africa, whether they are legal or illegal. Facts show that there is quite a significant number of Zimbabwean citizens in South Africa, and government has to make plans for everybody that is in here in terms of planning and everything. Is there a way? Is there thinking in government that we actually need to take that as a reality of our situation, that we have people here who are not necessarily South Africans in terms of their registration, population register, and we need to make actual plans as to how we deal with them, either interacting with the government of Zimbabwe as to what needs to happen. And because while migration is a natural thing, people move from country to country. But this one remains a bone of contention among South Africans when they go to restaurants and they do are served mainly by Zimbabwean waiters and waitresses. It is actually an issue that people, when we talk about.
Now ask the question. You're not giving a statement.
Okay. Is there plan in cabinet, or has there been a discussion about? I will speak to Zimbabwe at this stage.
Thank you, Minister. Omalo here from EWN. The Consulate General of Malawi, as well as their Johannesburg, as well as their I think their High Commission in Pretoria, issued an advisory for Malawian citizens in South Africa to, be safe, giving them advice on how to take care of themselves. Zimbabwe issued a similar advisory as well, also warning their citizens in South Africa. Have you been in touch with these embassies at a diplomatic level? That's just my question on this migration issue. Are you actually discussing these issues with them? I know they're issuing advisories left, right, and center from their embassies, but are you in touch with them to discuss them? And just in conclusion, does Cabinet view this as a national security matter, or is it more reputational damage, or is it both?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the questions. The Minister of Finance has written letters to all the metro municipalities, not only the city of Johannesburg. And the letters are detailed in terms of the type of interventions that are required. And it focuses on the areas of challenges. Part of that is part of the reform that was launched of the Metro Trading Service, where municipalities and the metro municipalities committed to ring fence electricity and water services so that there could be a reinvestment into the water and electricity infrastructure and operations so that we can provide services to the people. The challenge is that most municipalities, and the ring fencing does not mean there will not be a contribution from those services to what you call the corporate budget. But most of municipalities, even when they agreed and developed their plans, majority of them have not progressed to ring fencing the service. What makes the situation peculiar to Johannesburg is that Johannesburg then went on to do salary increases, where the major challenge has been the ability of the city of Joburg to fund its own services. The National Treasury and Department of COGTA is evaluating this situation as it pertains to the city of Johannesburg and other cities and other municipalities. We'll make the announcement when a decision is made of what's the way forward. But if you recall, last Thursday, there was a meeting of the president, the extended presidential coordinating council that dealt with some of those interventions. There was a special meeting after the broader meeting of the president with the metropolitan municipalities, the mayors, the city managers, and the ministers to deal with how do we turn around the situation in the metro municipalities. Metro municipalities are not extending services to the people in one form or the other. It may differ in the scale and capacity. With Johannesburg, it came, and Tshwane, it came to bear when they were not able to, when there was water shortage at some point, and we had to intervene. And so part of that is that you don't want Johannesburg and Tshwane, who are the hub of the country, they carry the country, to collapse and not be able to render services. You cannot afford a situation that Johannesburg collapses. If Johannesburg collapses, as good as the country collapsing in terms of service delivery. And therefore, even if they may be in the same boat with others, Johannesburg is a special case. So that's how that is the matter, and that's why there will be everybody, yourself, focusing on it. If we use the example of water shortage, it's not the first city or the safest area not to have water, but the country had to stand and say what is going to be done to make sure Johannesburg has water, because it is the economic hub of the country. So if the hub of the country collapses, the country will be in dire situation, and that's why the work that is being done on Johannesburg. But when there's a decision, we'll communicate the decision. But all other metros received their letters. They vary in terms of their own problems, and they got that. So I think South Africans, we've got, and it's a pity that those of us in the media space who are supposed to know and remember are not remembering. South Africa issued the Zimbabwe special permit. You remember? And also issued a Lesotho special permit. What does that mean? It means when we plan, we account for the people who are carrying the Zimbabwe special permit and the Lesotho special permit. And with the Zimbabwe special permit that led us to issue a Zimbabwe special permit, we issued a Zimbabwe special permit because we were accepting the situation in that country that made it difficult for Zimbabweans to survive in that country, both the then political strife and the economic situation. And we said, as a country, with our records of human rights, with our commitments to human rights, with our constitution, with the history of our own struggle, we cannot afford to have our neighbors to starve to death when we are available. There was nothing that justified Zimbabweans to be refugees in South Africa. That's why we issued a special permit, understanding the situation that prevailed in that country. When the special permits expired, we have continued to renew them. And there was a point where we felt we don't want to renew. They went to court and said the situation has not changed much because Zimbabwe is still rebuilding its economy. So you can't then want to then say there's a Zimbabwe problem in South. There's a Zimbabwean problem in South Africa. There's no Zimbabwean problem in South Africa. The Zimbabweans that needed to be assisted, they were given a special permit to remain in the country, which entitled them to do work in this country. It means when we plan including knowing that they will have to have access to services such as clinics and so forth. The Basotho the same. There was a discussion at some point to say, does the situation in Mozambique warrant a similar situation? And by the way, the people of Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Lesotho, they're not just our neighbors. They are our families. If you recall, the Mosotho in Lesotho is no different from Mosotho in the Free State and any other part of South Africa. The Motswana in South Africa is no different from a Motswana in Botswana. The Nama people in Namibia, just to use one grouping, is not different from the Nama people in the Northern Cape and in Cape Town. The Khoi and the San people in Namibia are not different from the Khoi and San people in South Africa. The Vendas and Karangas in Zimbabwe are not different from the Vendas and Karangas in Limpopo. The Shangans and Tsongas in Mozambique and Zimbabwe are not different from the Vendas and Tsongas in Limpopo and Mpumalanga and parts of KZN. So they are our family. So so we can't make it a problem. Because when you go into a restaurant and say a Zimbabwean is serving you and therefore it's a problem, you are assuming wrong. What if that Zimbabwean holds a ZEP? When you say a Musutu who is doing household labor in your neighbor's house to say it's a legal immigrant, what if she's holding the Lesotho special permit? You do not know. And that's why we say you cannot take the law into your hands. It's only law enforcement that must do so. That's why the Department of Employment and Labor has to do their work and do inspections at workplaces. That's why we say South Africans must play their part. Do not hire a person who you do not know their status in terms of a permit. They must show you a permit. Because you can't come here and say, oh, we've got a problem of immigration and therefore government must resolve it. But on the back, you are hiring a helper from Lesotho yourself, who you have not even checked the status. When we play, we must all play and work together. So nobody has a right to go and ask for papers. In terms of our law, is immigration officials and law enforcement officials that must do that. And we are saying, and labor inspectors, we are saying those categories of people must do their part. In terms of advisories, countries do whatever they do. The advisories are issued left, right, and center by all sorts of countries, all kinds of countries, every year, every time. And it doesn't change the price of bread. The price of bread is that South Africa has laws that must be respected, that must be abided to by all, citizens and non-citizens. And we're saying those who are undocumented must do the right thing also. But what's worse is those that are involved in criminality, because that's the discussion that is not being had. Those who intimidate South Africans not to run spaza shops and go to an extent of abducting them, kidnapping them, burning their shops, threatening them, beating them up. Those who are involved in selling drugs to our children, in drug peddling in our communities. Those who are involved in shooting people, those who want to claim they're kings in our own country. And you say South Africans must sit quiet. South Africans will not sit quiet. We cannot be undermined in our own country, but we're saying to South Africans, we accept that we cannot be undermined and let law enforcement do their part. Where we are failing, protest to us to say you are failing us on this. And then we'll take up that. But you have no right to take the law into your own hands. It's both a national security and a reputation issue. A reputation issue because countries, and I won't mention names, that in the last few months deported in mass foreign nationals in their own countries are now speaking up against South Africa, which we have not done that. It's a reputation issues because those who want to diminish the status of South Africa are using AI generated videos, are using videos of countries what do you call it, atrocities committed in other countries and claiming that are in South Africa. South Africans don't use machete to fight, but there are videos that are purported to be xenophobic attacks in South Africa of people using machete to kill. It would have been you would have written about it in your broadcasts, in your newspapers, to say 10 people were killed by a machete wielding crowd. We have not heard that. But those videos are being used to propel and mobilize an international outburst against South Africa, which is not based on facts. And we have, as cabinet, taken to task the police who escorted marchers and looked aside when marchers were beating a person and not arrest the people who were beating the so-called foreign nationals. To say that IPID must do its part for police failing to do its work, their work, and that police must go back their videos, they must go and deal with the people who are attacking others. There cannot be impunity. It's a national security issue because of the mobilization. Because you want a country to go into an uproar as if government is sitting and doing nothing. And we have seen consistently attempts to mobilize an uprising in the country. And small issues are used and minor issues are used to mobilize the uproars and uprisings. And they failed, and they will fail even in this time. And what is worse now is that there's this tribal connotation to it. If you can't speak X language, you are not a South African. If you can't speak X language, it's unacceptable. As if those people of that language can speak our languages. So it creates both situations, and that's why we are closely monitoring and working to support law enforcement in intelligence-led operations to make sure that this is dealt with, and we'll deal with it effectively. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. We will now take the online questions. And I think when, Minister, you come to respond to the online questions, we can also draw us to a conclusion of this press briefing. I'm not sure who's assisting with the online questions. Will you introduce yourself?
Good morning, good afternoon, Minister. Good afternoon, Minister, the panel and the members of the meeting. We have 6 online questions, Mr. Allen. First question is coming from Nomi Samaseko from BBC News. The government of Ghana has formally written to the African Union requesting that the alleged xenophobic attacks targeted at Africans be placed on agenda at the upcoming mid-year coordination meeting to be attended by heads of state and government. What is the response of the South African government to this, please? Second question is coming from Sunan Naidu, freelance journalist for Legal SA News. Can the minister confirm if the president plans to speak to the nation tomorrow after the Constitutional Court hands down judgment in the economic freedom fighters versus Speaker of the National Assembly? This third question is coming from Alan Molloy from Good Faith. On electricity and load shedding, following the Minister of Electricity's February and your elucidation today, undertaking that load shedding would end by this year in certain provinces and in other provinces next year. What progress review has Cabinet conducted? How is government addressing the limited impact of prepaid meters amid illegal connections, unemployment, growing informal settlements, and rising ESCOM debt from non-compliant municipalities. On national AI policy, what support is Cabinet providing to the Department of Communications, Digital Technologies to finalize the fragmented national AI policy and prevent future regulatory gaps? Has the department submitted a clear time frame for completion? On football Fridays and environment, would it be advisable to link Football Friday with a national tree planting initiative every Friday until the end of FIFA World Cup as a legacy project, celebrating Bafana Bafana's participation first since 2002, excluding 2010? This one is from Leshohonoro Lehana Fulvio. On a lighter note, is the minister willing to consider Zulu classes amid the post-Lawrence fiasco? And can she elaborate on what exactly transpired? It's genuine question, Minister. The last question is from Dennis Delbert from Network. How many passengers of Airlink flight 4Z132 from St. Helena contacted the Department of Health and was successfully traced? And is there any passengers with symptoms or hantavirus? One last question. From Cindy Ntshavheni, the Gauteng Network. What is the exact number of foreign nationals in South Africa currently? And out of that, what is the exact number, not in percentage, of asylum seekers in the country? Then he sends a follow-up question on drug syndicates. In light of the recent discovery of a drug den involved the Zulu Maputo and SEPS yesterday, why does Cabinet not outline a clear national strategy to dismantle organized drug networks operating within communities? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. On that note, I'm told you have to try some lessons.
You must remind me to end with the lessons. I think the question around the Ghana government, I responded to it early to say we are ready to submit a report and with based on facts. I think Sumain and I do must rephrase the question. I cannot confirm something that is not announced. She asking whether I can confirm if the president plans to speak. We have not made that announcement. So I cannot confirm something that is not announced. On the immigration enforcement, or maybe just to on yeah, let me do the immigration enforcement. On what measures have we specified to reduce illegal immigration? When the BMA and they continue to update and brief, they will come in not distant future to brief on the number that they dealt with during the Easter holidays in terms of preventing illegal immigrants coming into the country. We have already indicated that since the establishment of the BMA, over 500,000, 500,000 people have been deported for being illegally in the country. We have also indicated that Home Affairs is establishing the one-stop integrated borders that is modernized, that uses technology and so forth, and they are finalizing the appointments of providers and teams to work with them. I think it's 6 borders, which includes Bait Bridge, Lebombo, I think what's the one in Botswana, there's Ramatlabana, there's Oshuk one. six of them that they are working to make sure that it's work. So that work has not started now. It has started a long time ago. But also, if you recall, in 2025, Cabinet issued a directive to register all spaza shops and informal businesses in line with the bylaws of the municipality when we're dealing with the food poisoning saga, if you recall. And that process was undertaken over a 6 month period. And in that period, we also pleaded that people must not sublease their facilities. The city of Johannesburg, late last year, if not early this year, had to go to court when they were removing the trading of illegal immigrants in the city of Joburg, who, you remember, they were taken to court by the NGO called SERI, that is funded by companies that are not South African. They won because the laws of the country does not allow, and we had done the process. So we continue to do that work. We went in 2023, we went and revised and developed a white paper on immigration and refugee protection. That white paper was finalized early in 2024. In 2025, we then revised that white paper to make sure that we include these provisions that were not included in the first one. As the country, we considered withdrawing from the International Convention on Refugee and re-signing. And we advised that it's legally not possible, so that we could put what you call qualifying clauses, so that we could, like other countries have done, an exemption. The countries that are complaining about us today have done exemptions to say a non-foreign national cannot do business. You have seen those in Zimbabwe, in Botswana, in Malawi, in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Zambia. You can count all of them. They've got that in that provision. So on our part, we had to do this white paper and put this clause to allow us to then designate those times. But our law was always clear that to participate in a business in South Africa, when you are a foreign national, you must invest a minimum of 5 million. And sitting here, we know you don't need 5 million to operate in a spaza shop. So therefore, that area is out of bounds for foreign nationals, unless they are refugees, because the refugees are treated the same way as citizens are treated. Yes, because they have no other country. But the problem is that majority of what are called refugees in South Africa, during holidays, they go home. Therefore, they forgo their status as a refugee. And that's what Home Affairs is tightening. So that when a person exits the country who is a refugee, they know that they've lost the right to be a refugee in South Africa. They were tightening their ability to trace that because there's been an abuse of the refugee system in the country. So we are tightening that. And the time frames, we have been working on this. I'm sure majority of South Africans do not know that the white paper was approved first in 2024 and then revised again in 2025, and it has already been approved. As we speak, Home Affairs is working on the implementation of those clauses that can be implemented without the law, but also drafting the bill that must go to Parliament that you must public participate in and say, we don't like this, we want this as South Africans. But the problem with us is that we complain. When we are required to make comments, we don't make the comments. We don't public participate, including even in the IDP processes of municipalities. We complain, but then the participation, we don't want to participate in processes that will help us. And then on the load shedding question and the limited impact of prepaid meters and illegal connections and unemployment. Unemployment does not justify you doing an illegal connection. We must just be clear about it. If you're unemployed, government again has provided that you need to apply for what you call to be registered or register yourself as an indigent in a municipality, so that you are then entitled to a subsidy that governments give of free basic water and free basic electricity. And you can't be an indigent or an unemployed person and want to spend and want to run an electricity bill of 1,000 rands. It's not proportional. What are you spending it on? So the amount that is provided is the calculations were done scientifically to make sure that you've got the lights, you've got the ability to cook using electricity with that basic provision of electricity for the whole month, including the basic water. So there's no need for you to run an illegal connection. And when you run an illegal connection and ESCOM finds you or the municipal electricity department finds you, they'll have to open a criminal case against you over and above disconnecting. And then the Department of Human Settlement, together with municipalities, have been working to try to eradicate the problem of informal settlement. But you've got two main contributing factors why we can't succeed. Majority of people saying in informal settlements have already, who are South Africans, have already received RDP housing in their original provinces. So when they move to Gauteng or to Durban, for example, or in KZN, they no longer qualify because where they come from, they already have a housing, free housing provided by government. And therefore they go and stay in informal settlements. What are we doing about it? We're making sure that you develop the area so that people don't have to migrate to work, even here in Western Cape. But also they're considering the options of rental units. But in the informal settlements that we have assessed from the JCPS, and I've now been a member of that cluster, it's my second term. When we do the assessment, I remember with one former minister of police, when we went, we realized 70% of the people sitting in formal settlements are undocumented foreign nationals. So you can't provide them for housing because they're not budgeted for, they're not planned for, but they're also in the country violating our immigration laws. So you can't condone criminality because when you violate our laws, you are a criminal. And that's why we then, as government, funded through CARA funds, we funded the Department of Home Affairs to buy buses to make sure that they can deport people who are illegal in the country. Having done the Zimbabwe special permits, the Lesotho special permits, and a number of dispensations we've done, there's no need for illegal immigration in South Africa. A country can absorb to a particular capacity level. The rising ESCOM debt is linked to the inability of municipalities to collect to recover costs for services rendered. Municipalities, if they were doing their part, we would be able to curb even the problem of illegal informal settlements, because when a informal settlement is established, the municipality is there. They could go and remove within a period specified by law. But we're also making an intervention with the law, with the act that is in public consultation, the PI Act, the Eviction Act, to reduce the burden on the municipality and government or people who are affected by land invasion from to evict people in their land. Because we cannot have laws that protect illegality. So we are clarifying that in the, it's called the PI Act, they'll give me the formulation, proper formulation, so that we can have you help us mobilize South Africans to make contributions in that Amendment Act on how we should deal with eviction so that we can deal with the informal settlements that are also hosting illegal immigration, also are serving as a flee to the informal settlements. The police have to get out of cars to chase. If it's only one van chasing, you can't go in because they may mobilize vigilantes to attack you. Police cannot drive into the informal settlements. And those are part of the things that we have been working systematically to address. The AI policy written by AI. So the department had not done few basic things. The department had not served the policy in the IMC and consulted all the other stakeholders, and it went through. So the department, the minister announced that they are going to withdraw, they are withdrawing it, but they can't withdraw it alone, they must rescind it to cabinet. So in the next cabinet meeting, we're expecting a submission from the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies that rescinds that policy, and they must tell us measures, what they've done to curb that which is unaccepted, it's unethical to write a policy through AI, and instead of using AI as an acceptance. And two, what are the time frames that they must work through, and what are the things they're considering? We will be there to support them when that is taken. Oh yeah, the bill that is under public consultation, which we want South Africans to assist us to deal with this proliferation of land invasion that is leading to informal settlements that are spiraling, and also which are hubs of undocumented foreign nationals, is the Prevention of Illegal Eviction from Unlawful Occupation of Land Act, PI. We need South Africans to comment on. The Football Friday and environment, the president will be very happy. I think it's a good idea that we not only, president is targeting for us to plant 1 billion trees. So the Department of Forestries, Fisheries and Environment have a huge target. So we will, as part of our campaign management responsibility as GCIS, we will integrate the tree planting on the Football Fridays as well. And I hope the issue is that it's not that government must provide the trees, that we will also, as South Africans, provide get the trees to plant, will communicate what trees are being planted, but the first approach is to plant fruit trees where it's possible, so that we can feed the nation and continue to feed ourselves. There is an anti-national organized crime strategy. There are two, one that is led by NetJoins and the other one that is led by the national intelligence structures. And the priority focus areas for the one that is led by the national intelligence structures, the anti-organized crime strategy, is focusing on cartels and syndicates of drugs, guns, extortion, and the zamazamas, I think I'm missing, and illicit economy. And so we've got a strategy that is detailed that deals with that. We can't share the strategy because it will be self-defeating, but we've got a strategy that prioritizes those areas. We will brief from the national intelligence structures on our approach, which is being, I think in 3 weeks' time, on that specific matter of our approach of dealing with the national organized crime syndicates. And we are going to rope in SARS as we deal with the illicit economy component and get that support. The number of passengers who were on the St. Helena Airlink flight, and I'm afraid I may mess up the numbers, but the Department of Health have coordinated tracing of majority. I don't want to go into the numbers, majority of the people who were on that flight. because it was said it's around 60 something people that both in the flight and also in the treating hospital that made contact before their diagnosis, but that already almost 50 people were already contacted and traced. And in terms of symptom, we were informed that what do they call that period? The wait, the wait, no, the waiting period, not the quarantine, the waiting period between before symptoms can present themselves is 1 to 6 weeks. The incubation, yes, thank you. The incubation period is 1 to 6 weeks. So if you recall that this has happened last week and we are in week 1 or week 2, so we've got another 4 weeks to go with everybody who has been, but the team of the NICD are closely monitoring everybody who has been in contact for any symptom, everything, so that we are. So they can, and they said we must reiterate that the infection rate from people, from human to human, is very rare. The infection rate is from human to human is very rare. And as earlier indicated, you need to be in contact with the rats, urine, saliva, and feces of the rats, but the rats in South Africa do not have those. And the human to human contact, transmitting it through human to human contact, it's a minuscule percentage option. So they are confident that those people will not have been, but they are taking the necessary precautions. I'm trying to wait for the numbers on the number of Zulu nationals. You know, you have to call friends. Okay, since 2014 to 2026, we received 1,783,584 applicants. And from 7 March 2024 to April 2026, 786 foreign nationals applied for visas and permits. Of this, 633 has been finalized, and 150 is still pending. As at 31 December 2025, there is 55,190 recognized refugees in South Africa. Can you see it's a very small number? Refugees, 55,000 recognized. And you've got 82,410 asylum seekers in the country. So the total number of refugees and asylum seekers is less than 140,000. So the panic that the numbers are too large is not true. We will not know how many undocumented foreign nationals because they do not present themselves. We can work with estimates, but we will not know what is the number because they're undocumented. And that's why it's difficult to plan for, and that's why they become a burden on the public service system, because we can't plan for them. Unlike the ZTP holders, the refugees, and the asylum seekers, and the Lesotho special permits holders, who you can plan for to say we've got this number. Can you see the numbers we are planning for are very low? So the notion that we've got a lot of refugees in South Africa is not correct. Only 55,000. The notion again that we've got a huge number of asylum seekers is not true. Only 82,000 in the country. So the total of that is 140,000. And compared to our size as a population, that's a very minuscule number. And if we do the deductions, we from what State SA has done, you're going to have the numbers coming very low. That was responding to the specific question of saying how many of this in terms of category. And then the question whether our learn isiZulu. Mhlawumbe Ngizolinda inkosi yamaZulu ikwazi ukukhuluma isiVenda nesiChangana neSepedi. Nami ngizoyifundisa ukukhuluma isiZulu. Ngoba akuna ilungelo of any people ukuthi bona badimande ukuthi mina ngikhulume ilimi labo bangakwazi ukukhuluma ilimi lami. Ngiyabonga.